C2 Wrestling Podcast, CTD and Snowden, the boys are back with plenty of wrestling to talk about. The road to WrestleMania. I'm hyped, even though there's some shows that don't really peak excitement. I think the Chamber is going to be good. I think WrestleMania is going to be good, even though there's some hurdles going into the big show that we're going to have to discuss here today that we will get into. First things first, subscribe or you are a coward. Second things second, how you doing today, Snowden?
I am doing just fine. Another day, another dollar, another C2 Wrestling podcast coming your way. I look forward to these, of course. This is what we like to do. We say it all the time. We're beating a dead horse here. We love to talk wrestling, especially Mania season. This is the time to be a wrestling fan. We are post the Rumble. We are 8 weeks away, roughly, from WrestleMania. Like, this is the heat of it. It's always what's on my mind, but especially in this time frame, like it is just wrestling, 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 wrestling 24/7. And we do have a couple things to get into going into WrestleMania. There's some injuries floating around. There's some lack of new superstars. Maybe we'll discuss. But I want to bring up just the Mania build because right off the back of my statement just there, it is wrestling, 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 and it always will be for those that are as dedicated to professional wrestling as we are. But is this Mania build hitting to you thus far? Is it really like a Mania build? I feel like the Rumble plays a big part. And, again, we'll talk injuries, Bron Breakker injury. Maybe that played a part in the Rumble decision to not have Braun win. And then we get the Roman win. But, like, off the back of the Rumble, there's nothing grabbing me. I love Roman Punk. Like, that's great. And, like, the promo was great. But the Roman win is lackluster. It wasn't needed. They couldn't got there any which way. Like, there's just nothing that's kind of pulling me in quite yet. We're still got the Chamber coming up, so they're more so building to that. But I feel like it's a little stale right now. Not going to lie.
It's it's tough because we're still far out. I mean, we're not
Hmm.
super far out. We're still like 2 months away. So
Yeah.
I don't expect it to feel 11 out of 10 right now. I
Hmm.
understand that. But it's hard to not compare it to the previous few years. And last year was like the first, oh man, this is notably not as good as the last 3 years. And now this year, early feelings, again, it's still early, is it feels closer to last year than it does for a 38, 39, or 40. And I do think there is a bit of it where we were so invested in 38, 39, and 40. And it was so good that you're obviously not going to reach those levels. And you almost need like a little bit of a reset. You almost need a couple stinkers to kind of, when you get that hitter, it feels better again. The issue is like there's the possibilities and like the talent that they have that it doesn't feel, it feels more so that it should be better given what they have, not that it just stinks because it stinks. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it feels like there could be more. And we said beating a dead horse, I'll beat a dead horse again as well. It really does kind of circle all to the Rumble being in Saudi. And
Yeah.
and also next year's Mania being in Saudi. And that kind of acceptance, it really doesn't fully feel like we had the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. It feels like Roman won the Rumble, but it doesn't feel like we had a Royal Rumble
Hmm.
pay-per-view. And next year we've already kind of written off like, oh, we're gonna be less excited. It's terrible to think that way, but we do. It's kind of hindering everything that's happening right now. And it's just not at that level yet. It's not terrible. It's
Hmm.
not bad, but it's not 38. It's not 39, and it's definitely not 40.
No, it is definitely not. That trio of manias is the best consecutive three in a row. They hit a turkey those 3 years. They killed it. Off the back of that, it is hard to top 40. I never expected 41 to top 40, but it was lesser than I even expected, you know. 42. Okay, now you start thinking this has got to be better than 41. It'd be pretty hard to be as bad, if not worse, than 41. And I'm not saying we're even remotely there yet, but again, there's some ideas planted. Like I love Oba versus Brock, and that's probably the case, but it's not official yet. So until then, who knows? Like something like that is very exciting. There's a lot of things that will happen that will be good, but at the moment, I'm just not totally bought in yet. You mentioned Mania 43 being in Saudi, and I'm glad you mentioned that actually. I was texting Ryan a little bit earlier today. Yeet, our number one
Yeet.
yeeter, and we were talking WrestleMania 43, and just it got brought up in conversation about how it's in Saudi, and I had mentioned like because I hadn't thought about it until this point of just texting him. SmackDown's in Saudi. It's not announced yet as two nights, I don't think. But if they run Saturday, Sunday, Mania Raw's going to be in Saudi as well. There's no way they come back for it, you know? So we're getting like a Saudi week of wrestling. I can't imagine off the back of the Rumble build this year that next year's Mania is going to be some spectacular build. They're going to promote the shit out of it, I'm sure. It's still WrestleMania and they want the views, but they hardly promoted the Rumble. I feel like next year's Mania might not hit. I know it's early to say these things, but it leads you to really go, man, 42. We got to go all out for 42. And I don't quite know if they're going all out. You did say again, we got 2 months. We're not totally there yet, but I would expect by now for them to kind of be going all out. I want us to not maybe have the exact idea of what's going on at Mania, but man, get a lot of these people more involved. Start building the feuds, build a little bit more of the rivalries. SmackDown's been better than Raw. We're beating the dead horse there again. We've been saying that a bunch, but I'm just still not totally bought in. Like this doesn't feel like a Mania build to me quite yet. Outside of the Roman Punk promo, nothing is like Mania.
Yeah, I think we'll get there.
We
Uh,
will, we will.
yeah, I'm sure when we're 2 weeks out, it's gonna be like, oh my God, Mania's here, and we
Yeah,
see how the card
post
is
chamber.
played. Exactly, and we see how the card's played out. I do think a little bit of hindrance as well when you start looking at the chamber, the men's chamber match, the women's chamber match. Like they should be good. The You may be able to argue that the women's chamber is more up in the air
Hmm.
because you assume that's going to be Jade's opponent, and who the hell knows right now who Jade is facing? They could go in a million different directions. I don't know. I feel like there's still time, 1,000,000%,
Hmm.
and I know I'm going to be invested. I know I'm going to be watching. I think I've kind of bought into some of the routes that if they pivot and they go to stuff that I don't think is as interesting, it's going to hurt even more. I like too quickly. This is again, like, this is on me. This is not on them. I guess partially on them. But like, I started buying in really quickly into the fatal four way of Orton, Fatu, McIntyre, and Cody.
Yeah.
And now the possibility of the triple threat and Orton facing Alistair. I love Alistair. That dampens both to me. Like the fatal four way is so much better to me. There's so many more outcomes and there's so many more stories to come from it. I don't think an Orton Alistair feud, I don't think they're going to propel Alistair like they should. So that dampens my excitement for it. And on top of it, Orton should be fighting Cody. He should be fighting
Mhm.
McIntyre. He should be fighting Fatu. We still have the story of who attacked Fatu. So would I be upset and just zero interest in the triple threat and Orton versus Alistair one on one? No, like I'm still interested, but I'd be a lot more interested if they went through with that fatal four way it looked like they were planning. That's kind of where I fall in with some other things um, with potential matchups. I don't know. Dom Balor is also another one where it feels like that's the match. Balor's going to face Punk first. You're just going to, I don't want to say quickly because the story's been going on for years at this point, but like you pivot for the last 3 weeks going Balor chasing the Intercontinental Championship when he's now going to have spent the last 2 months drooling over the world title. You know what I mean? Like some of this stuff just doesn't really add up if that's how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean to pivot a little bit into the Balor world title, Dom Punk kind of triangle, whatever you want to call it. I do very much see a world where in Chicago, JD, Dom, the whole Judgment Day, like they come out to help Finn and it somehow gets screwy. Dom ends up inadvertently screwing Finn, and that's how Finn kind of sets his eyes on Dom a little bit more. Obviously, deeper into the Judgment Day, Raquel, Liv, there's some tension there. Roxanne's been sick, is the word, so off TV, so we'll see what happens there. But it is interesting. Like, I'm glad that a guy like Balor is in a title feud right now. Like, that's great. It's different. Balor versus Punk is a fantastic matchup. It sucks that he's a little bit of like the holdover guy just to get to WrestleMania. You know, Balor's not winning the world title at the Chamber. We all know that. If you think he's gonna, you're six. You know, like that's just how it is. Uh, but Punk Roman, you got the idea of Oba Brock, and then you have this kind of quad triple threat WWE title match that we've talked about. Cody, Drew, Fatu, Orton. I love Aleister Black. You mentioned it too. I'm a day one Aleister Black. One of my favorite matches for whatever reason is Aleister Black versus Velveteen Dream. I know that shouldn't be named, but versus Velveteen Dream at War Games, NXT. So I've always been an Aleister Black guy. Him versus Orton in literally any other scenario is like, here's my money. Take it, take it, take it. I don't think this Mania is the place for it because you have such an obvious, like, how do you not book this fatal four way? It is a mistake. This is Luke Harper not getting into the Orton Bray match at Mania 33. It is a mistake to not make it a fatal four way. The only acceptable thing that would make it a triple threat is if somebody got hurt and couldn't literally be at Mania. I love Alistair Orton. Booking Alistair to face a guy like Randy Orton off the back of kind of losing the Damian feud, you know, you can kind of turn a blind eye to it, but it is a little like, all right, you might as well have had him beat Damian Priest then if this is kind of the route you're going. I do think that would be a great match. I actually think Alistair and Orton, if you give them 15, that could be like an underrated kind of showstopper for WrestleMania, but I just don't think it hits as much as the quad, Drew, Fatu, Cody, Orton. And you know, maybe you said it a little bit too, like maybe we're kind of coming up with this and we're getting our hopes up, but it's right fucking there. It's right fucking there. It's not like I'm saying they should be throwing Ricky Saints in the match and oh man, like it should be Cody versus Javon Evans. I'm just making up people and like making a crazy fatal four way. You have the story. It's so easy to tell. You're already telling it. It's such a weird pivot to pull Orton out of that for Aleister Black. I understand there's little buffers in wrestling all the time. You know, Aleister can attack Orton backstage, and then Orton's eyes are set on Aleister until he beats him and moves on. Save it for post-Mania. I don't know what to tell you. Aleister versus Orton, though, it's we already discussed this a little bit. It's like impossible for me to picture Aleister winning that match, in all honesty, because you have to expect Orton would go on to do bigger things. But what is the point if you're not going to have Aleister win?
I think there is a chance though that Orton wins the Chamber and we still get the Fatal
Agreed.
Four Way.
Agreed.
I
Agreed.
think I could see Cody or Fatu, probably Cody being the one to get into the Chamber, and Fatu costing Cody in the Chamber, and they're
Hmm.
still kind of tied up with Drew, or Drew costs whoever ends up making it in. My fear is if it comes out that they were thinking or planning on doing the Fatal Four Way. I mean, they were doing the promos with Orton and Cody and whatnot. My fear is if it comes out that they were planning on doing it and then pivoted to the triple threat and Orton versus Aleister Black, it falls under where, oh, they feel like some things are getting too repetitive and they're trying to spice things up or whatever. Yes, I understand that, but other things like you need to pay these things off. Like if they pivoted away from Orton versus Cody because they think the fatigue and fans don't really want to see it. Well, no, that's one of the stories that fans are annoyed we haven't seen it yet. And if you just completely pivot away from it, you're only like furthering the annoyance with it. You're not actually doing us a favor. You think you're doing us a favor, like, oh, all right, we get it. You're tired of it. We'll go a different route. It's like, no, 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 no. we're tired that you haven't just done it and wrapped it up by now.
Hmm.
So that's a little bit of a worry where if we get that and then later it comes out that it was going to be the Fatal Four Way and they pivoted, it just feels moronic to get away from that.
Yeah, it does. I mean, again, you have something different here. I can't imagine sitting in that creative room and going, man, these fans would love Cody versus Drew one-on-one at WrestleMania. Like that is baffling to me. At the very least, Fatu has to be in the match. That is kind of your guy this year for SmackDown. You have a not so common opportunity to kind of really make somebody at WrestleMania with a guy like Fatu. And I do hope they pull the trigger. Sometimes it's a little too soon, it's a little rushed, but this is already a former US champ, former tag champ, if I'm not mistaken, like he's had a couple accolades, he's built himself up. I think you have an opportunity to build Fatu here and go into something new come SummerSlam, WrestleMania, all that. This pivots me a little bit to bring up Mania 43 again, which I understand is a year out from Mania 42. So you have 12 months to put the title on Fatu and then flip it back to Cody or Roman or whoever it's going to flip back to come WrestleMania. But that's where my mind goes with Mania 43 being in Saudi, is that even if Bron Breakker can go, or even if Fatu does win the championship, next year, it's only going to be on like one of four names, or one of those four names is winning the belt at Mania 43. Roman, Brock, Punk, Cody, like those are kind of the guys. So it feels like we're kind of setting up for a little bit of failure. I'm going to be honest. Like again, there's a year gap in between this Mania and next Mania, but does the Fatu hype die down if he wins the title and then loses it, like in some weird fashion, just to obviously get the title on a Roman for WrestleMania? Again, I might be making all this shit up. Who knows? You just, with the wrestling mind you have, you think this is the route they're going to go. It's in Saudi. It makes a lot of sense. But I'm hoping this next year, the fiscal year of WWE is really April to April come WrestleMania season. SummerSlam is not far off of April, May, June, July, August. We're not far off from SummerSlam, but that's kind of like a focal point event come this WrestleMania, where I think we'll start to be able to slowly plan out what's going to happen in Saudi at Mania next year. I'm just worried we're going to get a very typical year, and it's going to start at the end of this fiscal year with WrestleMania 42. Cody wins the title back. I don't think Drew retains necessarily. Maybe Orton does get in and wins it, but I'm afraid they're just going to be wasting a guy like Fatu.
You also got to factor in Sammy with it being in
Yeah.
Saudi.
Yeah.
Sammy obviously is a huge factor. I'm glad you mentioned SummerSlam though. Not that I want to look well past WrestleMania,
Hmm.
but they did make SummerSlam 2 nights. So obviously SummerSlam is more enhanced. It was the number two, quote unquote, and now they've added some juice to it. Well, it's even bigger now with Money in the Bank being after SummerSlam,
So much better.
which is so much better, but they need that post Mania to really be strong and carry them into the summer. Because while you said, oh, it's not that far, it isn't, but it is if you have a month bad of television.
Hmm.
So they need post Mania. We have to be leaving WrestleMania with that feeling again. This past Mania, the Raw after Mania was still pretty solid. The SmackDown after Mania was really good.
Hmm.
And it led to a pretty fairly strong start, and then they really cooled. And a lot of stuff was up in the air. I know Travis Scott was in the mix, then wasn't in the mix. The Rock was potentially in the mix, not in the mix. The Cena heel turn. I get it. It was a much different time than we look at right now. I love Cody. I'm not going to be upset if Cody wins the title back at WrestleMania. But if you're going for the strong push after WrestleMania with this, fresh wave that they're trying to do that it really feels like on SmackDown, if we leave WrestleMania and it's Roman and Cody as the champions, is it really that fresh feel? And on top of it, are they doing that just so they can have Crown Jewel and be Roman versus Cody and it's a big match in Saudi again? And it's like, wow, another massive match that we're just, kind of wasting away.
Yeah, I can Crown Jewel. Just get rid of it. What a fucking like. I understand. I like the King of the Ring. I like tournament style matches, feuds, setups, whatever. But like, we don't need a whole PLE that is only dedicated to champion versus champion when the following PLE is always Survivor Series, the brand warfare champion versus champion. I know it's transitioned a little bit into war games, but we have also talked endlessly about that kind of September to December mess with the PLEs with Money in the Bank. The titles tend to get defended at Money in the Bank, yeah, sure, but it's still only a four match PLE. So something is getting snubbed from that card. Crown Jewel, then you got Survivor Series, then really nothing else till the Rumble. So that's a slow season. That's a slow season of wrestling. Money in the Bank does fit better there than in June, July, but I do have a little bit of fear that they're somehow getting to a Cody Roman Crown Jewel. Roman beating Punk, I don't hate necessarily. I think Roman would look great with that title. I think before Roman's said and done, they're going to get him that title one day or another. I also love Punk retaining the championship. I think that's a little bit more of a wow factor moment is Punk winning. Where you go after that, Rollins back in the mix, Braun back in the mix. Fuck, get Bronson Reed in the mix for all I give a shit. There's routes there. If you're going to have Cody win the championship at Mania, fatal four way, triple threat, singles match, however you do it, if he walks out of Mania champion and he doesn't lose that fucking belt in the next 2 months, it's a bust. You can put the title back on Cody to be flipping it to the next guy. Roman wins the belt. We all know Roman is holding that belt until SummerSlam. Roman might not even wrestle 3 matches with that belt until SummerSlam. But if you're going to go that route and put that championship on Cody, Cody has to be a transitional champion this time around. With a new mix of guys. Orton is a new mix of guys. He's involved with Cody, but they haven't feuded yet. Fatu and Cody are feuding right now, but Fatu is still very fresh. Drew and Cody, their time is done post Mania. I don't see the need to see those two guys go again after one another forever, realistically. But there's a lot of ways post Mania that this can go bad. There's a lot of ways it can go really good. Again, the build itself to Mania right now, we're still kind of getting there. So I do expect those final 4 weeks to be a lot more hot. But I feel like even right now, you could be doing a little bit more. We still got SmackDown to come tomorrow night. So we'll see. I think the next like 2 or 3 weeks of SmackDown will start to, even before the Chamber, will start to have us realize, like, okay, they really might be going Alistair versus Orton here. Orton ends up winning the Chamber. Alistair might get snubbed, and that sucks, but it is what it is. There's always going to be somebody getting snubbed. I just reiterating it back to my initial point. I wish it was a little bit better right now. I wish Roman was on TV. His dates got announced. We got Brock announced for, I believe, the 23rd in Atlanta. So we got some idea of when these guys are coming around, but it still just feels like not enough for two of your three most marquee people or matches leading into WrestleMania.
I do think that we have a good chance of it really picking up steam kind of quick, almost like it flips a switch. Having Brock just out of the blue get announced to this Raw
Hmm.
adds the okay, at any moment it could really pick up. And we have Roman's schedule, so I get it. We're gonna know when he's there, and we're gonna have the great Roman Punk back and forth. Um, there is one thing that we've definitely mentioned before, but I want to make sure I mention here. I'm excited for WrestleMania. I think WrestleMania will be good. We pretty much know the path for Mania, or have a good idea on most of it. And a lot of it I'm interested in. I like. And I do hope it is the payoff for a lot of these stories. I think once Mania finishes, they gotta kind of, I don't want to say empty the clip because obviously you're never gonna have an empty clip. They gotta really have this whole new wave really take an effect. And say we leave WrestleMania with Cody as champion and Punk retains, or even Roman wins the title. I think to really freshen it up, all these guys, keep them in the mix, obviously. We got to get this next wave of guys to really start kind of taking over. And
Hmm.
I think it really all starts. They could be very promising and have almost the land of opportunity if right after WrestleMania, Obafemi is in one of the heavyweight title feuds. And I
Yep.
think that immediately is the real spice up to everything. Because yes, I am interested in Orton chasing number 15 and an Orton Cody story, you name it. But if Oba beats Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania and then immediately is facing CM Punk or Cody Rhodes or Drew McIntyre, whoever, and takes the title off of them, I then look at it, the entire roster is fresh for him. And it's
Hmm.
someone who I am so heavily invested in that you've got years of fresh stuff with him. So there's no need to run back matches. There's no need to run back stories. That to me, even with, Trick getting maybe a mid card title run or Javon Evans getting an IC title run, whatever it may be, that
Hmm.
is how you really freshen up after WrestleMania. We have the big hitters. We're going to use the big hitters to elevate this next crop. But after Mania, when I'm looking at SummerSlam, it should be like Oba's a defending champion. Trick is going for a title or a defending champion. Javon has either been a champion or is currently a champion. Let's use these fresh guys and have them in the title picture.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the crop of talent. You got the Obas and the Javons. Oba is probably the best archetype I could give for somebody that should just be WWE champion. Typically, I just mentioned it a little bit with Fatu. Fatu got his accolades. He got that US title, got that tag title. He's been floating around for a year or two. And Oba obviously had an NXT stint, but you put that aside, main roster alone, I don't like when people come in and are automatically going for the title or getting championship matches right off the bat outside of a guy like Oba, especially if he beats Brock at Mania. If Brock beats Oba, we've already discussed it, but that is the fucking biggest bust of the weekend. I don't even want to think about it. Oba beats Brock, him going after the IC title on the next Raw isn't enough. He should be in the championship feud. I do think, and this gets thrown around a lot, it's a new era, but I do think post Mania 42, you have the opportunity for a new era. There's a little bit of a holdover with 43 and Saudi again. I get it. It's a little bit of a stinker, but you propel Oba, a guy like Javon, who is still super young. I'd be okay with Javon not getting that title, his first title run until Mania 43, because Javon is fucking 21 years old and he's got so much time. You can build him up in a different way, but he should still be involved in very prominent feuds. He should be getting legitimate storylines going. He can really be like the underdog chasing it. You look at all these other names, the Elias, the Carmelos, the Trick Williams, the Ethan Pages, the Ricky Saints, even some of these NXT names, a lot of them are being utilized very heavily right now. I don't want to see it slow down. I think the run to Mania 43, which again is hindered by being in Saudi, because we're getting Brock if he doesn't retire, Roman, we're getting all those names. But Mania 43, that build, that 1 year build, really should be a transition of the eras. That should be where we really see Bron Breakker at the top of that mantle. Obafemi chasing gold. Carmelo, maybe he loses the US title, but he's on to bigger and better things. I want, I don't want, I need a Trick Williams title run in the year of 2026. That's another guy that maybe shouldn't be world heavyweight champion in his first 3 months, but should be US champion fairly quickly if you want to do that. Fatu, another name. Like there's just a whole crop of talent that is coming up. There's a whole crop of talent that is done. There is no more Cena. There is no more Styles. There's about to be no more Ray. Brock is almost out. You said Orton's chasing 15. Orton can't have that much left in the tank. Cody's even said he can't go forever. We are really getting into that point where it's time to take that mantle and give it to somebody else. It goes deeper than even the main roster. Let's finally get the fucking Lucha Bros together. Let's enhance this tag division. Hopefully this Grande feud goes well and we get this Imperium 2.0 we've pitched out of it with Bate, Dunn, and Ludwig, and we got a whole new faction to look after. Like, there's a lot of ways you can do wrestling, WWE post Mania 42, and keep it fresh. There's a lot of ways they can keep it stale. And I'm afraid they're going to keep it stale. I don't know. We'll see.
Actually, to put a bow on it all, I know I said Oba being in the title picture is like the best way to freshen things up.
Hmm.
And I I'll retract that statement. I'll put that at 1B
Hmm.
because 1A, we need the Raw after WrestleMania I'm all for this build. I like some of the matchups. We wrap up some of these stories. The Raw after WrestleMania, they need to announce a fucking draft.
Oh my
And
fucking
that's what
God, dude.
really, if we want to get to the actual crux of it all, if they actually want to freshen things up, they have all these stories going on, yes. And there's still some stories that are going to go into Mania that are going to go past Mania, of course. That's what Backlash is. But if we're being 100%, the way they need to freshen things up is after WrestleMania, finally do a draft because I mean, it's been what, like 2 years since the last one? I'm not counting the transfer window where they just shuffled up some people and didn't really freshen it up at all. That's the real way they freshen up the product after WrestleMania.
Yeah, I just looked it up to get the exact dates that WrestleMania 42 is April 18th and 19th. Okay. So April 20th, Monday Night Raw, I get it. It's WrestleMania Fallout. That following SmackDown, WrestleMania Fallout. Inside of that Fallout is where you get Triple H out in that ring announcing a fucking draft. And then if you want to stretch it that one more week to May and just the first episode in May, you get a draft going, it might be the most necessary thing. But I'm fearful because again, come next year's Mania build, oh my God, they're gonna screw it all up again. There's no way. Like, if we get a draft in April or May, right? June, July, August, September. That pushes us through SummerSlam to Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is now, cross brand. It's basically brand warfare. It's three guys here, whatever. Crown Jewel's the same thing. We just kind of reiterated this point. War Games is the same thing. And now we're going into Rumble Build, which is kind of the same thing. There's going to be so much crossover that it's leading me to believe they're not going to do a draft. But I'm hopeful. I still think even if it's for only those 4 months in between, that it's like a hard brand split. I think that's very important. The tag titles are maybe, a lesser thought to a lot of people in comparison to the championships, the world championships, of course. But what was the point of splitting the titles if you're not going to have legitimate brands? Like, you got to get back to that at some point. Get all this, get Pierce and get them head to head. Brand warfare, GM mode right out of SmackDown versus Raw. I think that is the only answer post Mania 42.
So we'll continue talking about freshening things up. People that will be coming after WrestleMania, it seems, are some injured people or some people that have been showcased and then removed. Bron Breakker, I feel like we touched plenty on him
Mhm.
in the Raw breakdowns, and I guess the timeline for him is classic WWE. He could be out
It's a week
three
to nine
weeks.
months.
He could,
Yeah,
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 yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Like he's like every sports team you have that one player where it's
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, he tweaked his hamstring and he's out for 2 weeks and then he's out for like 8 months and you're like,
Yeah.
where was he? And it's like, oh yeah, it was actually just like a kind of wide time frame. We didn't really know. When he comes back, he obviously needs to they need to put the fuel back in that rocket and really skyrocket him. The Chelsea Green injury though, she confirms that she has a broken foot. Man, it does suck. It is brutal, especially because Chelsea Green is someone who I don't want to say I thought guaranteed she's got a Mania match, but she would have been someone that if she wasn't on Mania, I would have been sat here like, man, Chelsea deserved to be on Mania. I know not everyone can get
Arguably,
on, but she
arguably the
deserved the
biggest snub.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to be positive, I don't know how long the recovery is. Strong push for Money in the Bank.
Hmm.
We said, hey, if there's some miracle that she wins the Rumble, that'd be awesome, but we don't really expect it. She obviously doesn't. Breaks her foot. It's time. Get that
Hmm.
Money in the Bank on her. Let's have some fun and use this time where she's out to have her just do what she does, but she just can't wrestle. She is the
Yeah.
perfect character where even though she's injured, she could still be on TV and enhancing her character enhancing her rivals, enhancing stories. Just because she's injured, I don't want her to not be on TV. I think she can easily stay very relevant, even with the injury, no matter how long it is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously injuries are never a good thing, but the caveat is if there's going to be an injury to somebody, Chelsea Green is like the perfect character, the perfect person to be out there every week in a wheelchair with that foot up, screaming, calling the shots to Alba Fire, disrupting matches, typical Chelsea shenanigans. It makes a lot of sense. I understand the travel life, all that is probably a lot tougher with a broken foot. So like maybe they don't go that route, but she is the perfect person to kind of keep involved. A broken foot, like every other injury, it's 1 week to 9 months. Who knows how long she'll be out. If she's available come WrestleMania and she's not in a match, that is arguably one of the biggest WrestleMania snubs. I just mentioned earlier, a guy like Aleister Black, maybe doesn't make the card, gets snubbed. That sucks. I love Aleister. He's not as involved right now as Chelsea has been for the last year to 2 years. It's no shade to Jade. It's no shade to the other woman on SmackDown. But man, if Chelsea wasn't on SmackDown, that SmackDown's woman division would be rough. It would be rough right now. And there's great talent. It's just not working all that well. Chelsea is kind of like the glue to it all, in my point of view. Even though she's not maybe directly involved in the biggest up and coming title feud, Chelsea is kind of that like buffer in between matches, segments, whatever it is, where you're looking forward to it. The dumpster match was a while ago, but that was like a hot moment for Chelsea. Even her little segments in between, they're not, I'm tuned in, I'm watching them. I want to see what she has to say, what's going on there. There's a lot of other segments. It's no shade. Julia is fantastic, but Julia and Kiana James come up on my screen right now, and I'm like, I just don't care. Losing Chelsea is a big hit, even if it is for only 6 weeks and she happens to be back come Mania. That is a big hit for those 6 weeks. SmackDown takes a little bit of a loss, but I'm hopeful they somehow find a way to keep her on TV. I'm glad you kind of mentioned it the way you do because I just couldn't agree more. Again, her in like the wheelchair, rolling out to the ring every week is the perfect way to capitalize on the broken foot.
It would feel like a miss if come Money in the Bank, she didn't take that cast, like she kept the cast around and whacked someone
hmm
upside the head and they fall off and she grabs the Money in the Bank to win it.
Yeah,
Like,
well, so it's funny because I was going to mention too. We've already brought up plenty of times Chelsea winning the Money in the Bank, and you just brought it up there. How she wins the Money in the Bank is very intriguing because this is your opportunity to really have like a fun way to have somebody win the Money in the Bank, or you just do something different. Chelsea can very well climb that ladder and win and get that oh my God moment. The fans are going to go crazy, but it's like Chelsea coming out at 30 at the Rumble and there's nobody in the ring. What if two people are fighting at the top of the ladder and the briefcase falls and Chelsea's just there and grabs it? Like there's so many ways to do it with somebody like Chelsea that obviously September is a bit of ways away, but hopefully she's good to go by then. This look at Bianca. Bianca's got an injured finger. It seems and has been out this long and it continues. She continues to be out. What if Chelsea needs a surgery on this foot and she's out even longer? It's just a bigger hit. A lot of injuries right now. Bron, we've talked about a lot, like you said. That's obviously a fucking massive hit in losing Bron. We don't really need to discuss it much further than we already have. Outside the fact, I will say, we didn't really know Monday when we did the Monday Night Raw review. It's now coming out more that it really seems like he's not going to be good to go come Mania. So that is a massive hit. But Chelsea, in a weird way, is kind of an equal hit to me. I'm not gonna lie. Like the women's division on the SmackDown side of things has struggled, so you needed Chelsea. The men's division at least has so much more right now that Braun is weirdly replaceable a little bit more.
I mean, Bronson immediately slots into his spot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah. Or you just put Seth in the triple threat with Roman and Punk, like we said. Like there's ways to work it around where, again, Chelsea's not involved in the main title match, but Mania could have been that moment for Chelsea to really like long term set her up to win the Money in the Bank.
1,000,000%. It
hmm
would feel upsetting if she, I mean, she'll be on WrestleMania. I'd be shocked if she wasn't on the
Be
show.
hosting it in that wheelchair.
Yeah, something. Or like a backstage segment complaining about there not being proper, accessibility while Alba
Yeah,
Fire
yeah,
is wheeling her around
yeah.
backstage, and whatever legend that's there, Michelle McCool tells
Hmm.
her that she's a wimp. I don't know. Like it just
Yeah.
like
Just
that.
gonna
Those
kick the shit out of her. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. She's actually just gonna grab a podcast mic and say,
Yeah,
"Let's
yeah.
fight."
And interrupt
Yeah,
Undertaker. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. It feels she is the perfect person for that celebrity backstage segment at the very least, if she can't go. So I still have confidence for her. While Bron Breakker is the type of character where if he's hurt, he can't be back on television until he's good to go. And then when he's good to go, it's got to be he just takes out whoever the top guy is, whether it's Roman, whether it's Punk, you know, whether it's Rollins. That's when he comes back. Chelsea, you keep her in the mix, keep things going. You mentioned Brock Lesnar is back in the mix, and it's quite interesting. We get him announced for Raw on the 23rd, which is what not this Monday, the next Monday is Raw.
Hmm.
So, gives a little bit of time for some tickets to move and whatnot. And that's kind of how Brock goes, where it could just be randomly one week he gets announced that he's showing up in 2 weeks, whatever. Hell, this could be the last time we see Brock until WrestleMania. He could be showing up on Raw and they could announce that he's the final entrant in the chamber spot and he doesn't even have to qualify. Like
I was gonna
who
mention it.
who
Hmm.
knows what we get with this Brock Lesnar appearance. But if they are going to do Brock versus Oba, then it has to be Oba interrupts Brock while he's out in the ring with Heyman on Monday, the 23rd. And at that point, I think the perfect outline is Brock is out there with Heyman. Hell, maybe he's even talking about trying to get into the chamber. Oba's music hits. Brock kind of laughs him off, and there's like, you can sense there's a little bit of fear behind his laugh. And then we get a few weeks, 2 weeks or so without Brock. And then he just pops back up and attacks Oba.
Yeah.
And then boom, there it is. We're getting Brock Oba. This could be the start of it, where if we don't have Oba signed and we're announcing Brock for 2 Raws from now, that could work.
So let me pitch this to you. What if Oba Brock, right? What if Brock is in the chamber? Brock finds his way into the chamber. He just gets announced, makes his way, whatever. And what if Aldis or Pierce, preferably, goes to Oba, like, I know you're kind of free agent, but if you sign to Monday Night Raw, I will put you in the qualifier, and you can make your way into the chamber. And now we got Orton, Oba, Brock, Fatu finds his way in, whatever, fill it with six guys. And I'm not the craziest about everybody that's big, bad, and badass going on undefeated streaks, but Oba is the guy that should probably not take a pin for 6 months minimum. Like he should be beating the brakes off everybody. But there is a chance in the Rumble, or not in the Rumble, in the Chamber, where you have four or five, six guys in the ring, and Oba's cleaning the house, eliminates a guy or two, but then it takes an RKO. It takes the moonsault from Fatu. It takes the crossroads. Then it takes all the guys watching Brock hit an F5 or two on Oba to get Oba. You really sell Oba as like this massive beast, but it takes the Brock F5. The Brock F5 or two is the last thing. Brock gets the pin, and that's how you kind of transition it. I don't hate that by any means. I think it also kind of helps propel Oba a little bit, but there is something about Brock just simply standing in the ring on Monday Night Raw and those lights dim and that music hits and out comes the ruler. There really is something about that. I think people underestimate Brock on the mic because he's always had Heyman. I think Brock is actually like one hilarious, and I think he's better on the mic than he'll ever get credit for. But I think Oba is like would run circles around him in a back and forth kind of promo about it. Oba can really sell himself as something greater. My issue with it, however they get there, is like you said, this might be the only time we see Brock till Mania. I need Brock February 23rd. So we got what, 4 weeks of March, and then you got 2 more weeks. He's got like 6 weeks from that appearance until Mania. I need him on at least four of those shows, like bare minimum four. I need Oba and Brock brawling throughout that arena the week prior to Mania or something. Have somebody fucking spear somebody through the stage. Like I need some crazy spot to really help sell that match. There's a lot I'm looking forward to for Mania, but it's not even mostly the Oba Brock match as much as it is just Oba. I'm looking forward to maybe more than anything come WrestleMania.
It should be a segment or two that closes the show. So
Absolutely.
when we get this match and it either opens a night of WrestleMania or it's the third to last match or second to last match, it's a holy shit. We're getting this match and we still got Punk versus Reigns. We still got the WWE Championship match. Whatever. It just enhances the rest of the card because it feels like a WrestleMania main event and it's not the main event. I am all for what you said. What it made me think of, remember when it was The Undertaker who came back for WrestleMania and they announced The Undertaker was coming back. And before he could say anything, Triple H's music hit.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Hmm.
it's how they set up Mania 27, I believe.
Hmm.
And it was like, oh my God, holy shit. Like, we knew we were getting the return of Taker, but whoa, shit, Triple H just came out of nowhere.
Yep.
That is what this Oba Brock segment could be, where Brock gets announced and Brock comes down to the ring, and it's very much like, what are we going to get from Brock? What is he going to talk about? He didn't win the Rumble. He didn't have some elimination where we're thinking, well, he would be thinking, oh, I want that guy. He eliminated me, whatever. He's not in the chamber. What is he about to do? Is he about to call his shot for whoever wins between Reigns and Punk because he has history with them? Whatever. And he gets in the ring, and hell, before he even grabs the microphone, before even Heyman says, ladies and gentlemen, anything, the lights dim and those drums start beating. And the crowd, whoo,
Goes
whoo.
wild for Oba.
And it's that shot back and forth of Brock. It's clicking in his head. Oh man, this guy did not back down from me at the Rumble. And he had like 20 minutes extra in the match, and that's why I got him out. And it took a few tries. Oh, this dude's a lot bigger than I remember him being. And we have that face off. And maybe there's no words said. And Brock leaves the ring. But we know as fans, all right, that's the Mania match. They don't announce it right there, but that's the Mania match. And then the next time we see them is that promo trying to officially set it up. And then the following time we see it is that promo that leads to the brawl that ends the show where all of the, ham and eggers that are backstage are getting tossed around and both these guys are clearing house and it feels like the Raw when it's Cena against the entire roster or whatever and it's just Brock and Oba beating everybody up and each other up. Like that's how we can sell this as this is crazy. This isn't the main event of WrestleMania. This is a marquee match and a marquee passing of the torch.
Yeah, I mean, again, Brock, you list 3 to 5 matches left for Brock Lesnar. Obafemi is you gotta guarantee that Obafemi match. If Brock only has 5 matches left and Oba got hurt, you save one of those matches until Oba can return. It's such like a must see match before Brock is done. There's a lot of ways they can go about it. I love the idea of Oba just coming out and interrupting Brock again. I think the idea too of Brock is always pretty funny with it. He comes out to the ring, he's always kind of laughing at people, pointing and whatnot. I want to see like him kind of doing that, the laughing at the fans. Maybe no words are said, like you said with the Undertaker back in the day, but then that Oba music hits, and that's where Brock, stone face, like attitude changes. He knows like he's got a problem in front of him. I don't know if it's going to happen on Raw leading into Mania or if it happens at Mania, but the visual of Obafemi hitting a fucking fall from grace, a pop-up power bomb on Brock Lesnar is a sight to see. Fatu, little bit of a change of pace. Fatu is a guy that you can capitalize on this year's WrestleMania. You can give him the championship and make him a focal point of SmackDown and WWE. Long-term thinking, this is the ball is in WWE's hands right now. This is either make or break. If Oba lost this match, I'm sure he's still champion down the line. But this match might be the match that has like the most long-term meaning to WWE. Oba beating Brock this early in his main roster career establishes Oba at another level. He's another caliber of superstar. Like as quick as he may be on that main roster, there's your main eventers. There's the Codys, the Ortons, the Romans, and those guys. Well, Cody, it's really to me, I look at it as like Cody, Roman, Gunther are like in their own little sphere. Punk's kind of in there too. And then Orton, a legend, but he's a little under that, maybe. Oba, you kind of put him in that tier with Gunther by having him beat Brock. He becomes the big bad that nobody can beat. He's very likable, easy baby face, but also so interchangeable, big bad heel. There's just so much you could do with Oba. I hope they don't fuck it up.
It's a big miss. Like to me, I mentioned how Oba has a million routes and he's got all
Hmm.
these potential opponents. But when it comes to WrestleMania, it feels like there's just one option, and that's he faces Brock Lesnar and beats Brock Lesnar. And
Yeah.
I think pretty much anything else would be a severe letdown. Don't get me wrong. If they somehow stumbled their way into Orton versus Oba Femi, that's obviously massive for Oba, but not right now. Like it's not something that makes sense. This is the like ultimate skyrocket chance. And they had him so strong in the Rumble, and they had him and Brock have that moment in the Rumble, just like they had with Gunther. And it was very clear the plan was Gunther versus Brock, and they probably were going to have Gunther beat Brock. You would at least think. Obviously, a lot happens, and that match ends up not happening. This is the same play out right here. Exactly how they did the Rumble again, but even more so with Brock struggling with him, feeding even more into it and making it even more clear that these guys are going to face off at some point. So now Mania feels like it's boom or bust. The boom is Oba facing Brock Lesnar and beating Brock Lesnar. The bust, to me, is literally anything else.
Literally any other scenario from Oba losing to Oba facing any other name, it's really a bust. I think it goes further than even WrestleMania too. A lot of what you do with Oba post WrestleMania can make it a bust. Even if he does go on to beat Brock, if Oba comes out on Raw and takes out Otis and Tozawa or the War Raiders again, like it's a bit of a bust. He should be, if not champion, in the championship match by SummerSlam, the latest. Again, even the IC title feels a step down after beating a guy like Brock Lesnar. You have a lot of opportunity here. Brock's career is obviously winding down a bit. This is again one of those matches you got to get in before Brock is done. The only caveat to Oba winning is that I don't think Brock is going to go on like a 7 or 8 losing streak before he retires. So Brock's going to get another win or two in there somewhere. Who does he face? When does it happen? I still firmly believe Brock holds a championship before he's said and done. There might be a world where Brock wins the title before SummerSlam and he holds it in Minnesota or loses it in Minnesota or wins it there, whatever. Oba beating Brock, does it diminish the eventual Gunther or Bron Breakker or whoever it is to retire Brock if that does happen at SummerSlam?
No, because you could say the same thing about Cena.
It's
Cena
still
got
Brock
retired.
Lesnar. It's still
It's
Brock.
still Brock Lesnar.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
pin Brock Lesnar tomorrow. It's still Brock Lesnar.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they still haven't had Brock lose since he killed John Cena in
Hmm.
that match at WrestlePalooza. And then he obviously wins in War Games and gets eliminated by some top dogs in the Rumble, but they do it kind of discreetly. So you don't even really think about it. You're not even thinking about his elimination and,
Yeah.
oh, did
Cody,
that
they're
dampen
going
him?
Cody Brock.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The one thing I will disagree with, though, I think a lot of people are really buying a lot into this Minnesota SummerSlam.
Hmm.
Brock don't give a fuck
Brock
at
don't give
all.
a
We
fuck.
know he
Yeah.
doesn't. And what has steered me away is clearly WWE doesn't either. Because look at how John Cena's career ended
Yeah.
and where they were. And look at where AJ Styles was, if that's it for him. Like, clearly that's not at the top of their mind either. So I think I'm pretty much bought in that Brock's going at least until next year's WrestleMania.
By far, yeah.
I'd be quite surprised if Brock was not on the Saudi Mania. Like I actually would be pretty shocked if
I'd
he
be
wasn't.
I'd be baffled if he wasn't at this point.
Yeah.
If Mania 43 was already announced to be in New Orleans, all right, maybe I'd be like 51-49. He retires at SummerSlam. With Mania 43 being in Saudi, I'm like 99.9. Brock will be at Mania 43. There's still that 0.1% chance that like he could have a retirement match. Gunther is on this retirement tour. Like it makes sense. It lines up in a way, but regardless, I don't think Oba beating Brock necessarily diminishes that at all. I just think after Oba beats him, Brock is going to need to take on a name or two and beat them to reestablish himself a little bit. It's looking like that might be my favorite thing going into Mania, coming out of Mania, is Oba and Brock. If they go forward with this fatal four-way for the championship, WWE championship, great. That's up there too. Again, it's no shade on Roman winning the Rumble. That kind of sucks. I fucking love Roman Punk. I'm fucking cheering like crazy. But man, something about Oba Brock is my favorite thing going into Mania, my favorite thing coming out of Mania. It's again this transition into this new era, like we talked about. I really want to see post 42 be the buildup of the Obas, the Javons, the Carmelos, Pentas, Elias, Tricks, Ethan Pages, all the new fresh names, including one name. I know we only got a little bit of time left, but we didn't quite get to talk about the lack of Royce Keys. Where has Royce Keys been? Are they holding on to him? Is he 22 years old? Is he 73 years old? Nobody knows. I think he's post Mania.
I think he's post Mania. I do have something else I want to talk about that we will get into. I think he's post Mania. I also think this is just classic like social media crock of shit
Just
type
crock of
stuff.
shit.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
like just like people were like, "Oh, he's been lying about his age." First of
Huh?
all, like he was born in America,
Yeah. Yeah.
and also like he worked for AEW. You saying he had faulty papers while the entire
Yep.
time he worked for AEW,
Hmm.
he had faulty papers, and then WWE found out he had faulty papers? What are you trying to say there? On top of it, if it is something that was known and was kept secret until he signed with WWE, then that's a load of shit too, because that's clear bias journalism. That's some clear hit piece right there. Whatever. Like
Hmm.
it all just pretty much feels like nonsense. I think it's pretty clear at this point. They don't have a marquee Mania matchup for him. And they've had a lot of returns, they've had a lot of surprises, whatnot. They have him debut at the Rumble, and then he'll come back after Mania and have a legit program with someone.
Rusev.
Yeah,
He'll start off slow,
Rusev
sure.
or
Yeah.
Priest,
Priest.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that does kind of feel the route. Hell, he might the night after Elimination Chamber or the SmackDown after Elimination Chamber attack someone,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it sets up his Mania match. We're still 8 weeks out. Anything
Hmm.
can happen. But I would have to assume he's probably a post Mania really gets the ball rolling on him.
Yeah. I wouldn't be totally surprised if we do see Damian versus Royce Keys on the Mania card. But, we're getting a little nitpicky here. 14 matches, let's say. That's probably match 13 or 14 out of like the matches they're going to get on. So does it get cut? Does it make it? I could see them holding off till post Mania. His arrival in WWE was pretty abrupt, anyways. Plans maybe weren't all that thought out. I do love Royce Keys. I've always loved him as Powerhouse Hobbs. I think he's a good name you can utilize in a lot of ways. I don't think I am dying for him at WrestleMania. If he makes it, great. Love it. But I'm not sitting here being like, they can't snub Royce Keys like Chelsea Green. If he doesn't make it, I understand why. Is a little weird though to have him even debut in the Rumble at that point though. Maybe shouldn't have even just had him there. I guess that's the only like real surprise for the men's Rumble they had. But I don't know. You could have fucking flew Ethan Page out or something. Like you could have done it with somebody else. I'm not entirely sold on Royce Keys not being at WrestleMania, but I'm not entirely sold on him being at WrestleMania. We'll see where they go. I want him on TV though. I do kind of wish he was on Raw and SmackDown a little bit just to get people a little bit more familiar with him, but post WrestleMania is where my mind's at.
Yeah, it almost makes me think as well. They're doing this Oba free agent thing so strongly, and they
Hmm.
just did it with Javon, they just did it with Jordan Grace and Trick, that maybe they're thinking is, all right, we just did it with those three, and we're doing it with Oba. Let's not do it with him right now because it's just kind of the same exact thing. Let's have Oba shine as this key marquee signing, let the dust settle there, and then start doing it with Hobbs, or have him officially signed immediately to a brand when he makes his debut, Raw after Mania, SmackDown after Mania, whatever. Would be perfect if they announce the draft and he's someone, Aldis signs him and he's protected from the
Mhm.
draft
Mhm.
because he's signed in the last, the NXT folks that just signed, oh, they signed at the beginning of the calendar year, so they're protected from the draft. Everyone else is still up
Well,
available.
I would love if they did a draft, but they did it in the route of like, okay, champions are locked to their brands. Champions aren't getting drafted. And then, Aldis and Pierce, they each get like two saves. You get to pick one male, one female that cannot leave your brand. And, they each pick whoever the hell they pick. There's a lot of ways they can go about it. I do got a reference because I forgot I meant to in that little spiel of mine. But Royce Key's age thing, I completely agree. I think it's just like nonsense on the internet. I think he's on his phone, he sees that and he goes, and he puts his phone down because it's just silly. But it reminds me of the episode of George Lopez where he found out he was a year older than he
Yeah.
really is. Yeah.
Yeah. I said there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about. Little insight before we got on here. We were sat here discussing some things that we were going to talk about. And I said to Snowden, man, there was something I wanted to talk about, and I can't think of what it was.
Hmm.
And during this podcast, it finally hit me. The bad part is, this is something that we could talk about for 15, 20 minutes, but again, that's anything in wrestling. But I'm going to bring it up anyway because it is relevant and I do want to talk about it. And I'm mad that I didn't start this podcast with it because
With this, yeah.
I forgot it. We did have some big news around the world this week, more so in the country, but crept out to the world. We did have the Super Bowl, and we had the halftime performance that was quite the polarizing divide amongst people. But what people did not focus enough on was the report going into the halftime performance that Bad Bunny may actually be at WrestleMania this year and have a WrestleMania match. Brian Alvarez reporting Bad Bunny's going to be back in the mix with WWE sooner than people think. Right after his Super Bowl performance, his Instagram goes dark, whatever. I believe he did something similar in one of his other WWE returns or
Hmm.
debuts. I can't fully remember. But first of all, if Bad Bunny comes back to wrestle, which he has said before that he's going to wrestle again, so I have no reason to think why he wouldn't at some point. It's kind of the two-part question, I guess. What night and who does he face?
The night is a little tougher of a question because it depends on how they map out each card. Obviously Bad Bunny's like middle of the card either night. Depends on where they put either matches. It screams Logan Paul to me this year. It really screams Logan Paul. I know Logan is tied up with the Vision and there's a lot of routes for maybe Logan, and I really I want to avoid like Penta and Dragon Lee and Bad Bunny versus the three of the Vision. But I think if you did Logan versus Bad Bunny singles match, I think that's great. Bad Bunny's like the best celebrity wrestler maybe ever, the most iconic entrance of all time. Logan Paul is a different level of that. He's not really a celebrity wrestler anymore. That's obviously he's in a different field. But him versus Bad Bunny one on one really gives you the opportunity to go, wow, Logan can do it. Like Logan is good. He can run this one on one. He's controlling the match right here. He's controlling the flow, the pace. I think it's an opportunity to kind of really propel Logan, but also man, what a babyface versus heel feud. Like that, I think is probably would probably be one of the matches that gets the biggest reaction of the weekend for better or worse because people hate Logan, people love Bad Bunny. Some people hate Bad Bunny, but that's a whole other podcast. But there's a great divide there of like babyface to heel. If it's not going to be Logan, I love Bad Bunny, but I don't know if there's another match that I really need for him at this Mania.
I actually, as crazy as it sounds, I'd be okay with the six-man tag.
Yeah, I'm not.
Just
Yeah, like I wouldn't hate it, but
like, don't get me wrong, it goes against what I was saying about the freshness, 1,000,000%, and I
mhm.
understand that. but it does get all these people on the card that would deserve to be on the card, and
Hmm.
they wouldn't really feel shoehorned in. If anything, Bad Bunny would kind of be the one shoehorned in.
Hmm.
Uh, but the match would fucking rule.
What a rule.
If they did like a six-man tornado tag, that I mean, you're talking that could be the match of the night, whatever
Hmm.
night it's on, just given all six guys in the match. The reason I brought up what night is because that feels it would be really cool night one to have that be in the middle of the show. And then night two, he's in the crowd. He's obviously still in
Hmm.
attendance. And he is front row to witness Rey Mysterio get choked out and retired by Gunther.
Yeah, I mean, that makes everything better when Gunther's out on the ring choking people out. So I got no complaints there. Right as I said it to you, like there's no other name that comes to mind for Bad Bunny. I don't think they're going to go this route. There's no like clear reason why they would go this route, but a name that comes to mind for me that would like I actually think would be great. I think it's a little early, but Bad Bunny versus Drake Williams, I think sounds great. I think that's a very good like again heel face dynamic, but it looks like Bad Bunny is going to be involved to some degree. Vision's going to be involved. Gunther's going to choke out Rey Mysterio. We got Bron Breakker. We got Chelsea Green injured. There's a lot going into Mania. You got to be here at C2 Wrestling. You got to come hang out with your boys. We got a lot going on, a lot of content coming your ways. It's been nothing but a blast for the last year and a half of doing this. We're not stopping. I hope you're not going to stop watching us. I hope you're not going to unsubscribe like some coward would. I hope you're going to subscribe like a really cool person would.
A really cool person would make a second account and subscribe on that second account. Look, you can't see Tommy Boy's head, but he's rolled over relaxed because he's like, oh, I don't need to listen to this right now. Because when it gets uploaded, I'm gonna give it the view. I'm gonna give it the like. I'll watch it then. I have no worries. He's actually covering his ears. You can't tell. He's like, I don't want it spoiled for me. I want to wait till it's uploaded and I see it and it's all freshly uploaded and everyone else gets to watch it at the same time.
I love to hear it. Love the support from Tommy Boy there. I hope you all support us as well. Stay tuned in. C2 Wrestling. Subscribe. Don't be a coward.